Today we are talking about Winston Churchill, the man who saved Western civilization from Nazi Germany, the man who stood alone against Hitler when the rest of Europe had fallen, and how suddenly in 2020 he became a racist villain in progressive eyes. June 2020, Black Lives Matter protests. Churchill's statue in Parliament Square, London, gets spray-painted, was a racist. February 2026, same statue, new graffiti. Zionist war criminal. Shalom, I'm Miguel and this is Middle East in less than 5 minutes. Let's talk about what's really happening here. The attack on Churchill. The charges against Churchill from the woke left. Racist, imperialist, colonialist, white supremacist, responsible for the Bengal famine, eugenicist, and now Zionist war criminal. Universities hold seminars debating whether Churchill was racist. Academic papers deconstruct his toxic legacy. Students demand his statues to be removed. Churchill College at Cambridge University, named after him, hosts debates on whether he should be condemned. The man who defeated Hitler, now condemned by people who've never faced a fraction of the evil he confronted. Here's what they ignore: Churchill's actual record. Yes, Churchill was a man of his time. Born in 1874, Victorian Britain, he held views on race and empire that were common then. But here's what matters. When it mattered most, Churchill stood against the greatest evil in the 20th century. 1933 to 1939, Churchill was one of the few voices warning about Hitler. While Chamberlain was appeasing Nazis, Churchill was sounding the alarm. 1940, Britain stood alone. France had fallen. The Soviet Union had a pact with Hitler. America was neutral. Churchill refused to surrender. May 1940 to June 49. Britain fought Nazi Germany alone. Churchill's leadership kept Britain in the war. Without Churchill, Western Europe would be Nazi. The Holocaust would have succeeded completely. The world would be unrecognizable. That's not hyperbole. That's history. The real agenda: destroying Western civilization. But here's what it's actually about. It's not about Churchill's views on India or his Victorian attitudes. It's about tearing down Western civilization. Churchill represents liberal democracy, Western values, resistance to totalitarianism, British history, and European civilization. And the woke left hates all of that. This is the decolonization movement, the critical race theory framework, the attack on everything Western. The logic goes like this: Western civilization is built on colonialism and racism. Therefore, Western civilization is illegitimate. Therefore, Western heroes are villains. Therefore, Churchill must be destroyed. It's not about truth. It's about power. Tear down the heroes, discredit the civilization, replace it with something new. What replaces it? Victimhood hierarchy, identity politics, group grievances. And here's where it connects to Israel. Churchill and Zionism. The connection. Churchill wasn't just a wartime leader. He was a Zionist. In 1908, Churchill declared that establishing a Jewish state in Palestine would be a tremendous event in the history of the world. In 1917, Balfour Declaration, Britain commits to a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Churchill supported it. In 1921, Churchill, as colonial secretary, visits Palestine. He's stunned by what the Zionists built: cities rising from sand dunes, irrigation transforming deserts, industry creating prosperity. He said, wherever the footprints of the Jews in Palestine are found, you have prosperity progress and scientific methods of cultivation, and where there was a wilderness, you now find vineyards. He saw the Zionists as fellow builders of civilization, turning wasteland into gardens, bringing modernity to a backward region. And he never wavered. Through the 1930s, when Britain turned against Zionism, Churchill remained a Zionist. During World War II, Churchill pushed for a Jewish state. After the war, he supported Israel's independence. So when the statue gets vandalized in February 2026 with Zionist war criminal, that's not random. It's the explicit connection. Churchill equals Zionist equals Western civilization equals villain. The pattern. Same enemy, different targets. Look at who else get attacked by the same movement. Western Enlightenment thinkers, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, Theodore Roosevelt, Cecil Rhodes, all condemned, all problematic, all statues target. Why? They represent Western civilization. And here's the key. Israel is seen as an extension of Western civilization. Western colonial project, a white supremacist state, an outpost of European imperialism. That's the narrative. So attacking Churchill for being a Zionist makes perfect sense in this framework. Churchill supported the Jews. The Jews created Israel. Israel is Western colonialism, therefore Churchill is a war criminal. It's the same ideology attacking all of it. The absurdity. Let's be clear about how insane this is. Winston Churchill defeated Nazi Germany, saved millions of lives, preserved democracy in Europe. Now called a war criminal by people waving Hamas flags. The same people who vandalize his statue with Zionist war criminal support movements that celebrate actual terrorists. Hamas, Hezbollah, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. They murder civilians, target children, use human shields. But Churchill fought the Nazis. He is a war criminal. The man who stood against genocide is condemned by people who cheer for groups that promise genocide. That's where we are. The Bengal famine lie. The main charge against Churchill, he caused the Bengal famine in 1943. 3 million dead. Here's the truth. The famine was caused by Japanese occupation of Burma, cutting off rice imports, cyclone and flooding in Bengal in 1942, wartime disruption of shipping, and local hoarding and speculation. Churchill was managing a global war against Nazi Germany, against Imperial Japan. Britain's own merchant fleet was being sunk by U-boats. Shipping was desperately needed for military operation. Did Churchill prioritize the war effort over Bengal? Yes, because losing the war would have meant Japanese occupation of India, which would have killed far more people. Was it tragic? Absolutely. Was it genocide? No. Was it a war crime? No. But the woke narrative needs Churchill to be a monster, so they ignore context, ignore history, ignore reality. Like always. Why this matters? This isn't about defending Churchill. This is about defending truth. When you can't take the man who defeated Hitler and turn him into a villain, you can do it to anyone. When you can rewrite history to make the greatest generation into oppressors, you won. And that's the goal. Destroy the heroes, discredit the civilization, make the West believe it has no right to exist. And then, conveniently, Israel, the only Jewish state, also has no right to exist. See how it works? The Israel connection. Israel faces the exact same attacks as Churchill. Churchill is racist, imperialist, colonialist, white supremacist. Israel is racist, imperialist, colonialist, white supremacist. Churchill caused famine and killed millions. Israel commits genocide and kills civilians. Churchill, Zionist war criminal. Israel-Zionist war criminal state. Same playbook, same accusations, same ideology. And it's all part of the same project: destroy Western civilization and everything connected to it. Churchill is attacked because he represents Western values and supported the Jews. Israel is attacked because it represents Western values and is Jewish. The common threat? Hatred of the West, and hatred of Jews who are seen as part of the West. They're really saying, when protesters spray paint Churchill's status with Zionist war criminal, they are saying supporting Jewish self-determination is a crime. Fighting for Western civilization is a crime. Defeating the Nazis doesn't matter if you are white and European. When universities debate whether Churchill should be condemned, they are saying historical context doesn't matter. Moral courage doesn't matter. Saving millions of lives doesn't matter. What matters is, were you on the right side of the victimhood hierarchy? Churchill was white, British, male, supported the West, and supported the Jews. Therefore, he is villain. The real racism. Here's the actual racism in this story. It's the assumption that only white Western figures can be judged by today's standard. Churchill held Victorian views on race? Condemned. But what about Arab slave trade that lasted 1400 years? What about Ottoman Empire's genocide of Armenians? What about Mao's killing of 60 million Chinese? What about Stalin's gulags and forced famines? Those get a pass because they're not Western. The woke framework only applies moral standards to the West. That's actual racism, holding different peoples to different standards based on their identity. The truth about Churchill. Winston Churchill was not perfect. No human is. But here's what he did. He stood against Nazi Germany when it was unpopular. He led Britain through its darkest hour. He refused to surrender when surrender seemed rational. He saved Western Europe from totalitarianism. He supported the Jewish people's right to self-determination. He believed in civilization, progress, and human dignity. He was not a war criminal. He was a war hero. He was not a racist villain. He was a man who defeated actual racists, the Nazis. He was not perfect, but he was on the right side of the most important conflict in human history. The attack on Churchill is part of a larger war on Western civilization, and the attack on Israel is part of the same war. Both are condemned for the same reason. They represent values the woke left hates: democracy, liberty, progress, Western enlightenment, Jewish self-determination. When you see Churchill's statue vandalized with Zionist war criminal, understand what you are seeing. Not a critique of history, a rejection of civilization. Not a call for justice, a demand for destruction. Not moral progress, moral regression. They want to tear it all down. Churchill, Israel, the West, all of it. And they've convinced a generation that defeating Hitler doesn't count if you're not woke enough by 2020 standards. That's fucking insane. That's fucking dangerous. And that's where we are today. Churchill saved the world from Nazism. Now he's spray-painted as a criminal by people who chant "globalize the Intifada." If that does not tell you everything you need to know about this movement, nothing will. If you find this episode helped you see the world differently, or understand something that bothered you, follow the podcast, rate it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen to it, and share it with your friends. Help spread the word. Thank you. I'm Bengal, and this was Middle East in less than 5 minutes. Until next time, Shalom.